Man's Friedman's wife is a girl.
Today is the 28th of Av, and the 1st of September. Yep. And we're in chapter 17. Let's see. Okay, so now he's going to give us the order of the Shmoneh Esrei, how it works. It says like this: Ki Asherat v'gilui or ein sof hu b'chabad, v'im lo היה נמשך להם מוחין אלו, לא היו יכולים לקבל גילוי אורו כלל. So we said that any type of ability to receive Hashem's revelation depends on the Chabad, depends on the person's intellect. And if he doesn't first have something coming into his mind, that's what we talked about. The first, like by us, I think last time we explained, everything we've been learning is changing our mindset about prayer. Just to understand what's going on. The moment you have a certain mindset, I think I mentioned this last time, you can have every day a new understanding of the application. Meaning you have an understanding of how it works, and the application changes every day depending on where you are in life. But the general mechanism is the same. So now we're learning that, again, this is the general statement, that if there's no framework in the mind, there's no ability for anything to come down. There has to be some kind of framework. This is what we said a few times ago, that you have to have some understanding of the language of the material that you're working with. You have to know their language. The language, if it's Torah, you have to know Hebrew. If it's prayer, you have to understand what's going on. So when you have a framework, a mindset about what's going on, the experience can change every day. It's different. It's not always the same. It's not that every day you have to think exactly the same thing in the same words. You can. There's nothing wrong with it. But even if it's not the same thing every single time, it's okay. It just means that the revelation that's coming down is very particular. It changes from day to day, as long as you have the mindset. Same idea. Maybe say it like this: if you know how to drive, you can go to different places. Yeah? As long as you know how to operate the car. The operation remains the same. The destination, what you'll see on the way, all that can change. But the mechanism stays the same. So he still has a basic mechanism in his mind. It says a simple Jew who didn't study this, and I'm a simple Jew before I studied this. So I still have a basic mechanism in my mind that says that through prayer, this I need to understand, things are going to change. Things are going to be different. That I'm bringing down something new. And it's up to me.
When Jew do it,
maybe. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Again, it could be. It's more, you could say that it's, I don't know if the work that a simple Jew does is better, but it's definitely more surprising. And that's the Maggid's famous parable, that what can you give a king who has everything? It says the only thing you can give him is something surprising, something entertaining because it's surprising. So what does he say? He says it's like you give a king a talking bird. And this is amazing, because birds don't talk. He says a simple person who all they understand is very simple ideas. You go to work, you get paid, so on. And then suddenly he comes up and says, wait a minute, there's another dimension to life. Completely different. It's not the dimension that you see. It's not that you go out to work and you get paid for it. It's a completely different dimension. What dimension? It's some spiritual dimension. And in this spiritual dimension, I want to have a part. What's my part? I'm not very complex. I don't understand. I'm not sophisticated. I'm very simple-minded. But I understand that there's another dimension to reality. And in that dimension, I also have a part. I want to have a part. So that's like something very surprising. It's something very new. It's novel. And so Hashem takes great pleasure in it. So he may take, as the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid explained, Hashem takes greater pleasure in the work of a simple Jew. But certainly a person doesn't have to remain simple. He doesn't have to always remain not knowing anything. I mean, it's okay to understand. There's nothing wrong with it. So here we're not going so deeply into it. We're just saying that first you have to have the mindset, and then things can come down. And if there is no mind, moichin, then there's no new light that can be added at all. So he says, where do we build the mindset? We build the mindset in the first three blessings of Shmoneh Esrei. That's the mindset. Why? Because the first three, they're like Chochmah, Bina, and Das. How do we know this? Because he doesn't say this. I'm adding this from the Arizal. Because in the first blessing, what do we say? Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Why do you have to say the God of Abraham? Just say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why do you have to say the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob? So, it's verbose. Okay. But, if you could have said it in a shorter way, and obviously we don't mean the three different gods, so there must be another reason why the sages in the Second Temple period who put together the Shmoneh Esrei, why they chose this language. So the Rizal explains, what is Avram? Avram is Chesed. So the God of Abraham is saying, what's above Chesed? Chochmah. So that's saying wisdom, Chochmah. God of Isaac is Gvura. What's above him? Bina. Yaakov is Tiferes. What's above Yaakov? Das. So Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov is saying, I'm referring to not just God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm also referring to the intellectual Sefirot. And it's in the wording. Again, if you didn't know this, it doesn't matter. But what are we saying in general? The first three benedictions correspond, literally, because they mention them to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, it says, the first one is Magen Avraham, that I protect Abraham. Who said that? Melchizedek said that. Baruch Avraham lekel elyon, asher migen tzarecha, and so on. So that was Shem, Noach's son, who said that. And that was a blessing that he gave Abraham. So we use that blessing. We say Hashem protects Abraham. And then afterwards Hashem says it himself. Anochi magen lecha scharcha harbe meod. I am protecting your reward very much. But it's not just a protection, it's also a shield. A magen is also a shield. So we have this idea that like there's a Magen David, it's like a six-pointed star, which is the shield of David, and how this comes about, or whatever, is not in our scope right now. There's also a shield of Abraham. And that's what we refer to in the first blessing. The second blessing is about Chiyas HaMeisim. It's about the resurrection of the dead. Why is that Isaac? Because Isaac was resurrected. Where do we see that he was resurrected? Because Abraham brought him up to be sacrificed. And the Zohar says, and some of the other Midrashim also, that he did cut him. That he did kill him. And he was dead for 3 years. That's what it says. And then he came back to life. When did he come back to life? When we find him going out and seeing Rivka coming from Haran. So he was the first person to be resurrected. This is something a lot of people don't know, but that's why Mechaya Mesim, we bless Hashem that he resurrects the dead, is connected to Isaac. And then the third blessing, Kedusha, Baruch Atah Hashem Hakel HaKadosh. Soon we're going to say HaMelech HaKadosh. Right now we're still saying Hakel HaKadosh, the Holy God. That's related to Jacob. Why? Because he is holiness. His mitato shlema, his bed was always holy. Meaning, for all the complex relationship that he had with 4 wives, he never ever...
He must be a Kadosh.
It's one way of saying it. If you could handle 4 wives, it must have been holy. But the meaning is that there was no psul in his zera. None of his children went off the way, the path. Whereas Abraham had Ishmael and Isaac had Esau. But all of Jacob's children became the children of Israel, the Israelites. So they're the first three. They're all shluchim. By the way, that's true, that they're the first 12 shluchim. So after we've opened with the first three, which is setting our mindset, and again, all three of these achieved what they achieved through their relationship with Hashem. Meaning they brought down a new revelation into the world thanks to their relationship with Hashem. So then we get to the 12 middle blessings. And the 12 middle blessings, they are 13, but same idea. The 12 middle blessings, they're what we ask from Hashem. And we're not just asking it, because what we're doing is we're actually creating a conduit for this blessing to come down. Because in Shema, we've already attained the level of accessing that which is beyond all our descriptions. Now that we've turned to Hashem in that way, that He's beyond everything, beyond the world, before creation, outside of creation, and so on, now we're bringing it down. That's why in Kabbalah, the 18 benedictions are called Tfilat HaShefa, Yiridat HaShefa. Tfilat Yiridat HaShefa, the prayer of bringing down the effluence, bringing down...
12, 13?
All 18. All 18, right. Right. דהיינו שישפיע אור אינסוף על ידי 10 ספירות אלו, השפעות כל טוב בביע. So now he's going to tell us how, in general, he's not going to get into the particulars, how each one, you can learn this in Kabbalah if you want to. It's again, the point here is not to know every single kavana, it's to understand the principle. בכונן הדעת, היא השפעת החוכמה על ידי ספירת החוכמה דזון. So the first blessing is that God gives consciousness, knowledge. We mean consciousness. The person is conscious. He can choose between this and this. He's responsible for his actions. So there we want Hashem to give us chokhmah, to give us wisdom. Why? Because we want all our choices to be done out of a sense of self-nullification to Hashem. Uvashivenu lo'orer tshuva l'yedei sfirat habina. And then Hashivenu, the second blessing, is about tshuva. Tshuva is always bina. It's always understanding. So that's the sphere that we're doing there. Uslach lanu hu המחילה והחזרת הרצון אחר שכבר שבו בתשובה. והיינו על ידי החסד. Then we say, Slach lanu, forgive us. What is that? That's Hashem's loving kindness. After we've done tshuva, we've regretted the past, now we say to Hashem, forgive me for it. And Hashem forgives immediately. And that's through His loving kindness. As we say in the Pasuk, and your right hand is the sphere of chesed, the sphere of loving kindness, is always outstretched to receive those who return to you. And then we come to the bracha that is the Redeemer of Israel. How does He redeem us? So He redeems us through His left hand, through His might. It requires might to redeem. Like in the first redemption, Hashem had to take a nation out of a nation. He had to take us out of Egypt. Verefuah, and then the next blessing is a blessing that we ask for healing, for health, for Hashem to heal us. How is that done? By Tiferet. He says specifically, Tiferet, beauty, Yaakov, is about healing. Why? Because Tiferet, the root, is a permutation of the root of healing. Dat? Okay, you didn't have that. כי לא שייך רפואה אלא אם קודם כל, אלא אם כן קדם מכה בתחילה. והדין והמכה נמשך מבחינת גבורה. He says also that healing comes after there's some kind of sickness. Something went wrong. That's when we ask for healing. And that happened in Gvura. That happened and it's very interesting because we usually say, Nagof leMitzrayim v'rapo leYisrael. It doesn't have to be that the sickness came to us. It can be that it came to someone else, to our enemies. And then we say, just as you give you hit them, you should heal us. That's like the verse from Isaiah. Nagof leMitzrayim v'rapo leYisrael. He, I don't know how to say Nagof. he hits Mitzrayim, he strikes Mitzrayim, Egypt, and at the same time he heals Israel. שאחר גבורה שהיא כלולה מחסד וגבורה, והוא בחינת מידת הרחמים לרחם על המוכה. And here he says that even if it's the same person, after Hashem has struck him, and Hashem only strikes in order to awaken the person, in order to wake him up from that he's done something wrong. There's no such thing. Don't believe anybody. I from my own experience, I know. If a person's sick, he's done something. He needed to be woken up. And he's the only one who can say it. You can't say it to him. Chaz v'shalom, never say that to anyone. But the person himself knows what was wrong.
One of the rabbis, current, or maybe the Ger Rebbe, one of the Ger Rebbe's from before, something a doctor calls, so what do I have? He says, a virus. Of course I have a virus. Of course.
Unfortunately, Hashem doesn't want us to waste our lives. It's unfortunate because if He wanted us to waste our lives, He wouldn't get involved. He would just say, okay, do the course you want. And that's why we say, that Hashem chastises those He loves. He cares for you. And you're right, you've done tshuva, so you hope that there's healing now. So you hope that from now on, everything will be on a different path. But there has to be some measure of judgment before. Uvirkat hashana l'yedei hanetzach. And then we have the blessing for a good year. And when we mean there a good year, is parnasa usually. But in general, it's a blessing, it's called the blessing of the year. The year is time, and that's related to the sphere of netzach, of eternity, or sometimes we translate it as victory, but it means time. And so on, he says, Sefirot Yud Aleph. And this is all he's going to get into. He's not going to explain the whole davening. That you can look up yourself. He says at the end of chapter 11, I don't remember what was there, but mostly in the Arizal, it's explained.
That word just Netzach, I know, has these two meanings.
Right.
What's the chap on that? They're very different meanings.
That in order to be victorious, you have to think eternally. You have to think about eternal ideals. Wow. You can't fight any kind of fight, whatever kind of fight, yes, even if it's just against a sickness,
yes, unless
you have eternal ideals that stand for you. Meaning that people give up, and you can't blame them, but they give up because they don't have something that they see as eternal that they need to fight for. So that's why victory and eternity are connected very strongly.
Viktor Frankl was, this idea.
So even his name, Victor, is...
Yeah. I'm saying that that's true. Oh, thank you. I never asked. I knew no one to ask this.